If you're not ready to have these conversations now before marriage, you must be ready to fight about them after marriage. What does that mean? It means if you avoid these conversations before marriage, you can't avoid fighting over these conversations after marriage. They are very important conversations that we must have before marriage to bring clarity. Unfortunately, a lot of people avoid these conversations because they think it's uncomfortable to talk about them before you get committed into the relationship, before engagement. But when they avoid these conversations, they fight about these conversations, about this issue, and they call them another name. We're going to look at the 7 conversations that you must have before marriage to avoid fighting over them after marriage. The first one we're going to look at is your faith, your church, and your theology. What does that mean? Your faith means whether you are a Christian, or you are a Muslim, or you are a Hindu, or you are Buddha, whatever you believe in, that's your faith. Or you are pagan, or you don't believe in anything. You need to discuss what their belief is. What is their faith? What do they believe? Do they believe in Jesus Christ? What they believe, you need to know that. What type of church will you want to attend? Some people say, I don't want a church that's conservative. Some people say, I don't want a church that's too liberal. Some people say, I don't want a church where they say sin. Some people say they want a church where they mention sin by name. It is very important to sit down with someone you want to marry, someone you are dating, and have this conversation, not after your wedding, but before you start to go to engagement. You need to sit down with them and ask these questions. Are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in redemption? Do you believe in salvation through Jesus Christ? Do you believe that people can go to heaven through anybody, through Jesus, through Buddha, through all the names that are there? Do you believe that Muslims can go to heaven, Christians can go to heaven, everybody can go to heaven? What do you believe? You need to know what their theology is. So it's not just about their faith. You need to understand what is your faith. Very, very clear. The Bible says 2 cannot work together except that they agree. You need to be sure that you agree on faith, agree on church. What type of church do you want to attend? How do you want to be involved in church? Because some people just want to go to church and leave immediately. They don't want to volunteer for anything. They don't want to give. They don't want to spend time in church. They don't want to know the pastor. They don't want the pastor to know them. They just want to walk in, and immediately the benediction is over. They share the grace, they walk out. That's the kind of church they want. And some people believe different things. That's their theology. Somebody can say, I'm a Christian, but I believe in same-sex marriage. I'm a Christian, but I believe in abortion. I think people should have a church to choose. You need to know their theology. What do you believe? It's very important. It's not just do they go to church. Yes, so because whatever they believe, they're going to teach your children what they believe. If you find out that there are things they believe that are deal breakers for you, there are things that they believe that is not comfortable with you, there are things that they believe that you can't live with, you need to end it or walk away when it's still safe. So it is very important that from the beginning you sit down and get clarity, secure clarity on these 3 issues: faith, church involvement, and their theology. The next point that is very important that you have to agree on is children. Yes, children. Because children most times is the natural extension of a family, the natural extension of a man and a wife, and then children are expected. You need to ask the person that you are dating before you go to engagement, before you start to plan to wed and all that. Do you want to have children? Or maybe it should be, do you want to have children? If you want to have children, when? If you don't want to have children, you need to know. If you want to have children, how many do you want to have? Want 1? Some people say, I want 1.5. Some people say 2. Maybe you want 4. Maybe you want a bigger family, 6 children. It's very important to avoid it becoming a source of conflict, to avoid it becoming something you are going to fight about tomorrow. It's very important that you sit down with the person that you are dating and say, if you want to have children, when? If you don't want to have children, why? So you need to know, you need to understand yourself. You need to agree on this. I'm very clear, because there are so many people today who say, I don't want to have children. There are people that say, I have children, but I regret having children. I want to travel, I want to go on vacation, I want to enjoy myself, I don't want children. So you need to understand from the beginning, do you want to have children? If you want to have children, when do you want to have them? You want to have them in your 20s or your 30s, or you want to wait until you have them in your 40s? How do you want to have the children? How many children do you want to have? I want to have 4. How many do you want to have? You need to agree on something. And you even go a step further to parenting, because when you have children, you must parent them together. What do you believe about parenting? Do you think that children should be spanked? Do you think that children should be punished? Do you think that children should be corrected? You need to get very clear understanding on these things, because tomorrow maybe you want to spank your child, your daughter, or your son, and your wife says, why are you hitting them? Why are you spanking them? Why are you even punishing them? Why are you even rebuking them? Children should not be spoken to. Maybe he calls it abuse, he calls it this, he calls it that. So you need to have an understanding from the beginning. If we're going to have children, if you want to have children, how many do you want to have? When do you want to have them? Do you want to have them naturally, or do you want IVF? If you want delivery, how do you want delivery? Do you want natural delivery or want cesarean? Some women say, I don't want natural delivery. I want all my children cesarean section. You need to have a clear agreement on how the children will be, how many there will be, how they will be raised, your parenting style, his or her parenting style. If you don't agree on this, you are going to fight on them. There's no avoiding it. So it's very important you agree on them from the beginning to avoid fighting over them. Another very important thing that people who are dating on a serious relationship must discuss and have clarity on is money. How do we make money? Very important. People always overlook how to make money. There are jobs that you may not want to do. There are jobs you may not want your spouse to do. There are kind of hours you may not want them to work. How do we make money? How do we save? What do we save? What do we spend? What do we invest? Very important. Some people don't want to save. They think they are young. They want to spend. They want to go on vacation. They want to spend until they borrow money. Everything is spend. Buy this, buy that, buy that. A new car, new furniture, new clothes. Some people, all they do is the money comes in, they spend it. It comes in, it goes out. It comes in, it goes out. Everything is spent. So they are very savvy to spend. Some people are also very savvy to save. So when somebody who is very savvy to spend is about to get married to somebody who is very savvy to save, there's a conflict already. So it's very important you find out that your wife or the person you want to marry is very savvy to save, and you who is a man is very savvy to spend, or it could be the other way. You need to sit down and say, are we going to become, both of us, savvy to spend, or are we going to become savvy to save? Are we going to be in the middle? We save a little and then we spend a little. It's very important that you have this clarity early, because if you don't agree on this, every day it will be a source of conflict. And when conflict becomes a constant in a marriage, the marriage is ready to end. When conflict becomes a constant in your marriage, the marriage is ready to go. That means every day there's conflict. It's not once in a while. It becomes a characteristic of your marriage, a feature, a permanent feature, conflict. And money can bring that kind of conflict. People start to save money and hide it. People start to spend money and hide it. If your wife likes to spend money, she spends and hides it from you, because she knows that when you find out I'm spending, you're going to be offended. There's going to be trouble. So she spends it and hides it. Or you want to save, you save it and hide it because she doesn't want to save. That's a sure source of trouble in marriage. So apart from saving and spending, you want to invest. If you want to invest, what do you want to invest in? Somebody say, I don't like real estate. I don't want to put any pain in real estate. And somebody says, real estate is my best investment. Everything I want to save has to go to real estate. Somebody says, no, it has to be mutual fund. It has to be exchange traded fund. It has to be buying common stock. Some people say they want to buy Bitcoin. Some people say Bitcoin is stupid. So you need to discuss these things, because if you don't, you are going to fight over them. So a very wise thing to do is to sit down and talk over them. Maybe you want to do Bitcoin, but with very marginal amount of money, very little amount of money. Or maybe you don't want to do at all. So if you don't agree on this, you have agreed to fight. The next thing that is very important that people who are dating and who are serious, who are committed, should sit down and talk about before engagement is your past, especially your sexual past. This is a topic that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable to discuss. Most people don't want to talk about their sexual past because they are uncomfortable about it. Some people have shame to deal with about it. Some people have trauma about it, especially women. They don't want to talk about it. Very important that you sit down and talk about your sexual past, because you are going to become now one unit sexually, one unit in everything. So your sexual past becomes my sexual past. You're not going to have two sexual pasts now. Your sexual pasts are going to become one. Just like your financial future are going to become one. Your everything is going to become one. So it's very important that you're going to merge. You need to discuss it and say, we all made mistakes in the past. Nobody is without mistake. Jesus said, if you have not committed any sin, cast the first stone, throw the first stone, which means he knows that we all have sin. We are all repentant people. We are all people that have sinned, that Jesus Christ has forgiven. So we are not condemning anybody. And there's a redemption in Christ. The Bible says, if any man be in Christ, any woman be in Christ, is a new creature. Now, with this at the back of our mind, it's very important that you sit down with somebody that you want to date. Somebody that you want to get engaged to, have a serious relationship with. And you're not going to go into details. You're not going to be very graphic and tell everything you did with everybody. But you need to give something that when the person finds out, it will not be a shock to him or a shock to her. And it's always a bigger problem for men than for women. It's a problem for everybody, but from research, from counseling, it's a bigger problem for men. So it is important that you sit down with the person that you're about to get married to or you're about to get engaged to and talk about your sexual past and forgive yourselves and get ready to move on. And if you think your sexual past is something you cannot forgive, something you cannot absorb, something you cannot live with, it's good at that point to end the relationship. The next important point, very, very important point, talk about before you get engaged is in-laws and family involvement, because it's always bringing conflict. How are families going to get involved in what we are doing? How are in-laws going to get involved in what we are doing? They must get involved. I like to tell people, in-laws cannot be outlawed. You cannot outlaw in-laws. They are in-laws. They are not outlaws. And there's a reason. They are the parents of your husband or the parent of your wife. So they are a very important part of your family, of your new family. They are now an extended family. So sometimes people treat them like they are enemies. In-laws are not enemies. So, but whether you have a very good relationship with them or you have a tense relationship with them, it's very important that you discuss with somebody you want to get engaged to and say, what do you think about in-laws? How do you think we'll allow in-laws? If there's a party, if there's a birthday party, if there's anniversaries, whatever it is, should in-laws be invited? If we invite them, who should decide how we do it, the size, the scale? Is it me or you or our in-law? If the children are going to school, can our parents help in parenting them? Can they tell them what to do, or should they not have a right to tell them what to do? you, in some families, grandparents also parent children. Some people think, no, grandparents should not have any role in parenting. They should not spank children. They should not tell them what to do. They should not try to teach them their values. So you need to sit down and discuss these things. If in-laws are visiting us, should they give us notice before coming? That people that think if in-laws are going to come, they should tell us a week before time, 2 weeks before time. Some people think, no, they are part of our family. If they are coming, let them just come in. They don't need to give us notice. You see, one person believes this, the other person believes that. You need to agree. Which one do you believe? Which one are we going to do when we get married? Because if you don't agree on this, you are agreeing on quarreling, you are agreeing on fighting, you are agreeing on conflict, and it's not healthy. So in-laws are going to come, family members are going to come. What level of involvement are we going to give them? What level of access are we going to give them? What level of money are we going to spend on them? What level of time are we going to spend on them? Are we going to allow them visit us? Are we going to be visiting them? Or is it going to be both? We visit them, they visit us. If they visit us, what are they going to do? Can they use our car? Can they borrow money from us? Can we give money to them? Can we take money from them? You need to sit down and agree on this to avoid these issues becoming sources of quarrel in your marriage. Another very important topic that people avoid to discuss before they get engaged and get married is their expectations and their roles in marriage. It's very important to talk about this because it's a growing source of conflict. Because today, people my mother's age, they knew what their roles were. My mother never argued with my father about who will cook or who will clean in the kitchen or who will do chores. It wasn't an issue. 50 years ago, it wasn't an issue. But today, it's an issue. So a woman is going to say, I'm not going to be the one that's always cooking, always cleaning, always doing this, always doing that. So we have to share cooking, we have to share cleaning, we have to share going to market to buy tomatoes, we have to share everything. And the man is going to say, okay, who takes the vehicle to the mechanic? Who takes it to the workshop? Who changes oil? Who does this? Who does that? If these expectations are not discussed, you go into marriage and the expectations you have are not realistic, or the expectations you have are not agreed upon, disappointed from week one. Because what you're expecting the man to do, the man will not do. Or what the man is expecting the woman to do, the woman will not do. So there's disappointment from the beginning. So it is very important. And we're living in a world now where roles are changing every day. It wasn't changing every day before now, but now roles are changing. The woman is going to sit down and say, look, you went to work, I went to work. So when we come back from work, if I'm cutting tomatoes, you better be cutting yam. If I'm cutting tomatoes, don't think that after cutting tomatoes, I will cut yam. You better be cutting the tomatoes. If not, after I cut the tomatoes and you didn't cut the yam, nothing, no cooking again. So these roles are becoming more and more source of conflict. Okay, so last week I took out the trash. So this week you're going to take out the trash. There's even division of roles in who changes the baby's nappies. Who does this? Who wakes up in the night if the baby's crying? Is it the mother always, or maybe the man, or whoever is stronger, or whoever, So we need to sit down. Of course, we know everybody should help everybody to bear the burden, even if it's not your role. Marriage is not supposed to be a 50-50 game. It's supposed to be a 100-100. But people that make it sound like if it's a 50-50 game. So I do my 50, you do your 50, so we have a 100% marriage. No, marriage is not 50-50. And every time you want to make it 50-50, you have a problem. Marriage is 100-100. But whether you're going to do 50-50 or you're going to do 100-100 like I talk about, I recommend, it's very important that you sit down from the beginning and agree what roles will be performed by who. Even if everybody's going to perform a certain role, who is the primary owner of that role? Who brings the money? Who pays for the house rent? Who pays for the school fees? Who does this? Who does that? Who gives money to parents? You need to agree these roles. If you think what you are hearing is something you cannot live with, it's good from the beginning that you end the relationship so that this conflict will not end your marriage. It's that important. It's that crucial. So you must sit down and discuss these things. If you have help, maybe you go to a mentor or a therapist or somebody who's more learned in these things to guide you. But it's very important that you have this conversation. That brings us to the next very important point: communication style and conflict resolution. How do you resolve conflict? Because let me make it very clear from the beginning, there's going to be conflict. Even if you do all the things we are talking, you do them very well, perfectly, there's still going to be conflict. In every marriage, there's conflict, natural, given. You can't pray it away. I'm going to say that again. You can't pray away conflict. So, but you can pray and you have conflicts that you can manage, that you can resolve without getting outsiders involved. But every marriage has some level of conflict. Because you are not married to yourself. The person you are getting married to has a different background, different type of parenting, different type of wounds, different type of fears, different type of anxiety, different type of trauma. So because you have a different background, there must be conflict. So the issue is not will there be conflict. The issue is how do we resolve conflict? Some people want to resolve conflict by shouting. Some people withdraw and stop talking. Some people bang doors. Some people do different things. They walk away, they leave the house. So you need to sit down with the person you want to get engaged and say, if there's conflict, how do we resolve it so that it's peaceful, so that it's healthy, so that we are growing together, so we are fighting well. We are not fighting to kill the marriage, we're fighting to keep the marriage. Because some people, when they fight in their marriage, they are fighting as if they want to kill the marriage, not keep the marriage. So you are one team. So it's important that you sit down and talk about conflict resolution style, communication style. How do you communicate? Some people think their wife can go into their head and know what they want. Or some women think their husbands can go into their heads and know what they want. If they can do that, that means they have supernatural power. Maybe they are some kind of prophets or something, I don't know. Nobody can go into your head and know what you want. Or maybe you say, shouldn't my husband know that I want this? Shouldn't my husband know that I think this? Shouldn't my husband know that I don't like that? No, you need to communicate and communicate and communicate. If you are communicating very well, your marriage tends to go very well. You should be very generous with communication. You need to sit down with your wife and say, look, I can't read your mind. You can't read my mind. The only way I know what you want is that we communicate. You want a birthday gift. Tell them the kind of birthday gift you want. Tell them the color you want. I want a red shoe. Tell them you want a red shoe. Don't say, he should know I want a red shoe. He should know I don't have a red shoe. He should know I want a red belt. He should know I want that. He should know I want that. Maybe he should know. But is it not better if you tell him that I want a red shoe in my next birthday? Maybe you don't say it as straightforward as I'm saying. Maybe there's a nice way to say it. If you want a certain thing. So communication is very important. You sit down from the beginning and agree that this marriage is going to be communication rich. So many marriages are communication poor. Their communication is poor. But so many marriages that are doing very well, their communication is rich. They communicate, they talk, they sing, they write notes. They're always communicating. They even learn to communicate with their eyes. So they're always like, look at him and know what he thinks. You communicate with your body language. You communicate in everything. So you have to agree these things before even the marriage starts. If you find out that you like to communicate openly, you like to talk, and the person you want to get married to doesn't like to communicate the way you want, or doesn't like to communicate at all, or believe that you read their mind and know what they want, you may reconsider. Because when the communication is poor, the marriage will be poor, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to give you a bonus point, and it's a bonus point because people don't like to hear about that again. And what is that bonus point? Headship and submission. They go hand in hand. Today, people don't want to hear about submission and headship. Maybe it's time for us to buy a pair of scissors, go to the Bible and cut off headship and submission. The Bible said the man is the head of the family. We need to cut it off from the Bible because people don't like it. The man said the woman should submit to the husband as it is fitting unto the Lord. We need to buy a pair of scissors again and cut it off from the Bible because we don't like it again. And so when you want to get engaged, before you get engaged, you need to sit down and say, have you cut off that from your own Bible? Because I've cut it off from my own. Because if it's in your Bible or it's in your belief, your mindset, and it's not in the Bible of the person you are getting married, you're going to have maybe some disagreement. Submission is not being subservient. Submission is not being a slave. Submission is not anything of sort. Submission just means that what you are saying is correct, what I'm saying is correct, but we're not going to go in two ways, two directions. The family has to go in one direction. You think our children should go to ABC school. I think they should go to XYZ school. See, ABC school is a good school. XYZ school is a good school. So which one do they go? By the end of the day, if the man is the head of the family, they should go to XYZ school because that's what the man says. Not necessarily because your ABC school is terrible or because the XYZ school is something supernatural or something super good. But they can't go to both of them. A man thinks we should buy a black car. Maybe the woman thinks we should buy a pink car or a red car. Because a man is more flexible. If it's me, for instance, I like a black car. Maybe my wife wants a red car. I will say, okay, good. Because of you, let's buy a red car. But we don't have money to buy a red car and buy a black car. We're going to buy only one for now. So which one are we going to buy? My favorite color for a car is black. Maybe my wife wants a pink or a red or a yellow or something. I will easily say, come, let's get a black car. Let's get a yellow. Let's get a red. Let's get the one we want. But some things are more important. And those things that are very important, maybe we'll say, we're going to invest money in something. Maybe I say, we're going to invest money in a house. And maybe you say, no, we're not going to invest money in a house. We're going to spend the money on a vacation. See, that's a very critical, very important thing now. So I may not easily say, oh yeah, let's go on a vacation because it will make you happy. Because we have to plan retirement. Vacation will not help us retire. If we're going to retire, we have to save. We have to invest. We have to build a retirement next fund. If you don't have that, you're going to retire into poverty. You're going to retire into something you don't like. So it's important also that you sit down and say, what do you believe about headship? What do you believe about submission? Do you think it's something that we should not talk about at all? Or do you think it's something we should cut off from our Bible? Please, it is very important that you have this conversation very peacefully, in a very healthy way, and don't let it become a source of anything. If this message has spoken to you, I want you to subscribe, share with everybody who is navigating this stage of life. If you're a returning viewer, don't forget to subscribe. If you are new to this channel, my name is JP Forward. See you in the next one.